So this is the iPhone 11, and in this video we are looking if the iPhone 11 is still worth buying after 5 years. But first, here is the fun fact. In the next minute alone, thousands of individuals are going to be searching online for a new iPhone. That's millions of people every single day trying to decide should they buy the older iPhone models or spend big on the latest one. So if you are someone considering the iPhone 11 in 2025, here is the question for you. Is the iPhone 11 still worth buying, or is it finally time to upgrade? But lucky for you, you don't have to answer that. And here's why. I have been testing out the iPhone 11 for the past 2 months based on Apple's trends, user experiences, and performance tests to break it all down in this video. So without wasting much of your time, let's jump right into it to check whether should you buy the iPhone 11 in 2025 or it's time to upgrade. So in design-wise, the iPhone 11 is basically identical to its predecessor, the iPhone XR, apart from the dual rear cameras and the recentry of the Apple logo. But if we are putting those physical differences aside, the iPhone 11 has the same aluminum side frame with a glass back wireless charging and notch display with a Face ID. So it's now clear that the iPhone 11 does not have a stainless steel or something fancy like ceramic shield or even a matte finish, things you will expect to see on a newer Pro model iPhone. But at the same time, these materials Apple used to design the iPhone 11 are not terrible either. And even though this iPhone was designed back in 2019, the iPhone 11 build quality is still solid and feel premium even in 2025. But there is a drawback, something you should be aware of. The iPhone 11 is far from thinner light. And whilst I was carrying it around testing it, I felt the heft in my hand and even in my pocket. Something I'm pretty sure you will notice too, since it's got 8.3 millimeters and weight of 194 grams. So I think I'm free to say the iPhone 11 is a little bit bulky, especially if you will be putting on a case. But on the plus side of things, even though the iPhone 11 may be bulkier than its big brother, the iPhone 11 Pro, it created more space for the battery to be bigger as well. But I will get back to that in a minute. However, the rounded edges of the iPhone 11 made it more comfortably holding, so that the heft is not all that noticeable and more ease in the hand than the straight edges of iPhone 12 has. And it is also a good thing that it's IP68 water and dust resistance, meaning if you accidentally drop it in fresh water up to 2 meters of depth, it should be okay for around 30 minutes, which I think is much better than iPhone XR IP67, but not quite water resistant than the new iPhones. But again, it's actually enough for what I think most people need, including myself. However, just like how I always said, do not rely on these older iPhones' water resistance too heavily, because looking at the iPhone 11H, there's a good chance that the water resistance ceilings has worn down by now or been broken altogether through people taking them apart for repair. But if the heft of the iPhone 11 is not a drawback for you, then I think the screen will be, or at least to a lot of people. So let me be the first person to tell you this. The iPhone 11 screen is not great, but at the same time not bad to be using it in 2025. And here is why. The iPhone 11 screen is 6.1 inch with basically a 720 resolution, or to break it down for you, a 1792 by 828, along with a density of 326 pixels per inch. And I know in 2025, just by hearing 720p LCD screen, you will immediately think the iPhone 11 has a terrible screen. But after testing out the iPhone 11 screen for 2 months straight, I can confidently tell you that the screen is not bad as it is on paper. But of course, you may not get a fantastic viewing angle from a screen like this or a pure blacks, but I can definitely guarantee you will be satisfied with the brightness and the sharpness with no complaint, because the screen has Apple's Retina display technology, so you won't see the individual pixel from a normal viewing distance. And on the plus side of things, the color on the panel is accurate with a decent amount of contrast and has peak brightness of 625 nits, so it gets plenty bright, so using it outdoors shouldn't be a problem. And it also gets dark enough to be comfortably used indoor. And this is also perfect for the 10% smartphone users that can't use OLED screen because of PWM flickering. So Consuming media, typing, reading on the iPhone 11 6.1-inch screen is a joy. But the only physical bad thing you will hate about the screen is the bezel. I think it's a little bit bigger than how I would like it to be. However, I'm giving you a heads up that if you have a small hand, the iPhone 11 will be a little big in your hand. But you should be okay if you can comfortably use it with your two hands. And to people that are concerned of the iPhone 11 screen refresh rate, I'm sorry to let you know that the iPhone 11 does not have a higher refresh rate, something like 120 Hz, something you will normally see on 2025 iPhones. But as long as your current iPhone or the one that you are migrating from does not have a higher refresh rate than the iPhone 11, you should have no problem from switching to this iPhone at least in 2025, because the current refresh rate of the iPhone 11 is enough, and not having a 120 Hz does not make this iPhone feel slow at all. And another thing that doesn't feel slow about the iPhone 11 is the chip inside. The iPhone 11 is the only cheapest iPhone to be supporting iOS 26 in 2025, and the A13 Bionic inside is one powerful and fast chip. And with the 4GB of RAM, the iPhone 11 is guaranteed to give you a fast lightning performance. So for tasks like calling, texting, browsing, everyday tasks like that, the iPhone 11 is able to handle them with ease. And likewise, when it comes to gaming, I was able to play intensive graphical game like Call of Duty on the best frame rate settings without any frame drop lag. And if we are going off the fact that the iPhone 11 predecessor, the iPhone XR, had an update up to September 2024, which is equal to an insane 7 whole years of software support, I will not be surprised if the same thing is being done to iPhone 11. But for now, the specs of iPhone 11 makes anything from iOS 26 animation feels very smooth on the iPhone. But of course, all the software longevity and the outstanding chip of the iPhone 11 doesn't really matter if the battery life sucks. But during my testing, the thing this iPhone does best, in my opinion, is the battery life. And something you should know is the iPhone 11 battery is physically larger than its predecessor, the iPhone XR, and its big brother, the iPhone 11 Pro. So no matter what type of user you are, the 3110 mAh battery inside the iPhone 11 is capable of getting you throughout your whole day. Personally, I use the iPhone 11 mainly for social media, taking photos and videos, and hotspotting my laptop at a 78% of battery health. Yet after a heavy use, I still get some juice in the battery before plugging it to charge. And on normal day, if an iPhone gets 5 hours in screen on time, it's considering to have a good battery life. But if your iPhone is getting 7 hours in screen on time, it's on a whole different level. Like, that's a great battery life. And oh, just in case you don't know, the iPhone 11 also supports fast wired charging up to 18 watts and wireless charging at 7.5 watts. And for a pro tip, if you are planning on buying a used iPhone 11 in 2025, please try to get the one with at least 80% of battery health. But the higher the better. Okay, so now to the cameras. The cameras on the iPhone 11 are 3 in total. They are not the best in 2025, but they are not terrible either. There is a 12 megapixel main camera, 12 megapixel ultra wide, and a 12 megapixel selfie camera on the front. And despite the hardware being 5 years old, they still do a fantastic job in my opinion. So far, I would say these are the best cameras you can get in 2025 on a smartphone at the same price tag. Now overall, I think the photos and videos from these cameras looks very nice. The dynamic range is pretty good, and the iPhone does a great job of exposing for the highlights and the shadows at the same time. Photos are just so vibrant and clear with colors that looks natural most of the time. Photos are also sharp, but not over sharp, and it's a setup that just works. It can take amazing photos no matter what the situation is, and the flagship in the camera qualities most definitely makes up for the iPhone drawbacks, like the low resolution display. And Apple did a great job in making sure to add new features that makes the iPhone 11 a true successor of the iPhone XR, mostly in terms of the cameras. For example, night mode. So you cannot be outshot to take good photos in low light, but it's important to know that it's limited to the main main camera only, so you can't use it with the selfie camera or the ultra wide. But that shouldn't be a problem since other cameras will have features that the main one lack, like the ultra wide that gives you a much wider field of view compared to the main camera. So if you want to capture something like a landscape or a group of people, you will be able to have much more in your photos without having to take a step back. Now, admittedly, you do lose a little bit of quality with the ultra wide lens, but it still does a great job at capturing a larger area. Now, the portrait mode on the wide and the selfie camera are seriously stunning and does a very good job at rendering a believable image with a smooth bokeh. It does mess up sometimes though, and I'm not trying to say it's perfect by any means. A lot of the time it blurs out the edges of your ear or your hair or something that needs to be in focus. But apart from that, everything else works fine. And so now to the big question. Regarding everything I've said about the iPhone 11, is the iPhone 11 right for you in 2025? Well, if I'm being honest with you, the iPhone 11 is marketed towards the average everyday user who wants a solid iOS experience with top-notch camera performance and battery life, but does not really care about the features on the newer models. But of course, the display of the iPhone 11 is the worst aspect, but considering that it's not actually an objectively terrible display and it's actually pretty decent, it makes the quality of all other aspects pretty much assuring if that's the worst one. And for the price of $400 brand new, you are more than getting your money's worth. But I wouldn't recommend you to buy the iPhone 11 brand new though, since you can get the one in the used market for less than $200 and maybe use the rest of the money to get you a case from the money you save and thank me later. So there you have it. And if you find this video interesting, that means you will like more on my channel. So consider subscribing if you haven't done that already so you don't miss out my next post. Thanks for watching and thanks for subscribing. Catch you very soon in my next post. Peace out.